If they can pull off the Chavez Jr. fight, it would be an amazement. The reason why is because they're going to sell the tickets. Canelo will win the fight. And the accomplishment would be, can Chavez Jr. make weight? He has never made a set date in years. Every time they set a Chavez Jr. date, they had to reschedule the fight. Because he can't make weight. We've seen...
I think the fact that he just made weight out of nowhere and it looked good in his body, they said, all right, let's do it right now. Let's do it right now, Chavez. You just made weight. You can only put so much weight on. Let's do it now.
Well,
he weighed in at 168 last little tune-up.
No, that means he came in at 175 and the scales was set. No way Chavez Jr. makes 168.
Especially with that long layoff. It surprised me.
Chavez Jr.
I'll say the photos do make it look like he's working out now at least. I'll give him that, but the 165, I don't know, dude.
Yeah, he works out for 2 weeks, then he wants a break. You know, and then when he takes a break, he goes on a vacation out of the country. So that's a break for him. And he just doesn't have it. He's not a fighter. His father never wanted him to fight because he knew mentally he's not made to be a fighter. The biggest fight of his life against Sergio Martinez, this guy was treating it like a joke. He's not barely training. All he's doing is like trying to get himself in shape to lose. It was basically a weight loss camp. Even Freddie Roach is like, look, he's not even here. I'm going home.
He didn't even go to the gym. He had to work out in his little living room in that place when he was eating cereal and his skivvies and shit.
Yeah, because all he cared about was getting high, hanging out with his girlfriend, laying up, and his father's training harder than him. And he's not even fighting. And they're looking like, look, we did everything to give you this platform, Chavez Jr. They stole the belt from Sergio Martinez, the WBC champion. He was the first interimist champion I've ever seen in the WBC. They stripped him for absolutely no reason to give the belt to Chavez Jr. I mean, they told him he had to fight a fighter that they wouldn't, or they were going to strip him, the WBC. And they were like, what? If I don't fight this guy here, he fought the Zurich, who was way better than that fighter. But HBO wouldn't approve the other guy. The guy's like, well, we wouldn't put that guy on HBO. We can't do that. He's not HBO quality. So we can't put him up there and put that on HBO. So they fought in Zurich. That's who they approved. And the WBC stripped him for fighting in Zurich and put a title fight up with that other guy and Chavez Jr. And then those two got the fight for the belt. And guess who picked the fight up? HBO. The same company that said Chavez Jr. I mean, the guy that they wanted him to fight, who was the mandatory, that they wouldn't put that fight up. That fight was a joke. They approved it for Chavez Jr. And then Chavez Jr. beats him up, of course, and wins the WBC title. It was a joke. And the biggest criminal travesty we have seen in years in the sport of boxing, just to give Chavez Jr. a belt. And then they told Sergio Martinez, well, you're just going to be the interimist champion, but he's the real champion until we get this fight done. Then they wait 2 more years. After they voted, the council went there, they voted that Sergio Martinez is supposed to get the fight. They still couldn't get the fight done. It was a joke. It was sad to watch. And the fact that Sergio Martinez destroyed him the way that he did and just broke him down round by round by round, it finally set the balance right.
Last great performance there, too. That was his last great performance because in that last round he fucked up his knee and never was the same.
Yeah, and then I think when he took on Murray, the way he came back and won those championship rounds, I think that was, to me, his last greatest performance. That 12th round.
That last gasp.
Yep.
Yeah, you're right. That's true.
Yeah, that Murray performance was special because his knee was gone.
On the storm in Argentina.
Yep, his knee was gone, but he buckled down and he gave it to him. And I mean, just completely gave it to him. But
he knew he needed all those rounds. Like, gotta get it.
Oh yeah, 100%. And then you had brought up a point too that you said you didn't bring up on the last show. You saw it on your notes, and you just saw it on your.
Oh, the WBC.
Yeah, with the father. Yeah, and the thing is, I understand if the dad is not the trainer. If your dad did not train you and is not licensed to be a boxing trainer, period, then by all means, you shouldn't be, you could probably be a chief second or whatever. And we've seen that before, where fighters not the head trainer, like Tim Bradley's father. He said, look, I trained him when he was young, but I turned him over.
At some point, he gave him off. Yep, exactly.
Yeah, but the thing is,
he gave him to a pro.
How are you going to determine if this guy is his trainer or not, or this guy's not licensed or qualified to be a boxing trainer? Because what are you going to tell Angel Garcia that he can't work Danny Garcia's corner? Are you kidding me? You got to be joking. I'm like, they're winning fights. They're successful. Joe Calzaghe was trained by his father, who barely knew anything about boxing, and they retired undefeated. He never lost. So what are you saying? How are you going to gauge that? There's no way you can. And it's only going to cause a controversy.
There's so many like that, you know. There's a lot of examples of that.
Exactly, and for a fighter, the first person you trust is normally your father. So if your father's bringing you up in the sport, and then then you got to bring in a guy you probably don't trust.
If you want to change something about this, that I can see your point, but to just, have just put a blanket on everything, have such a broad stroke to say, all right, that's just banned. You have to be the second guy or third guy or whatever. But, well, maybe they're going to clarify that, or they have, and we just didn't see it. But that's not what I saw. I just saw that and that was just going to be decided. Like, what?
It's just ridiculous because you can't control that. There's nothing you can do. You're going to tell Floyd Mayweather Sr. he can't train Floyd Mayweather Jr.? It's not going to happen. I mean, you got to understand that a lot of fighters in here are trained by their fathers. They trust that. So you're going to be risking damaging a lot of relationships in the sport of boxing. I guess they're figuring like, look, or maybe some of the big trainers are saying, look, we're losing fighters to these dad trainers, and we need to get business back on track. So I need to be in there training people. So we need to get some money back up. Other than that, that's the only way I can see them really putting up a fight for. But it's something that's well out of their control. If somebody's winning and successful with it, I could see. But this is the first time, the first people that they trust. And then you got to look at it from another standpoint. Most of these trainers that they have their family members because they can't afford trainers. Most of these fighters that start off, they can't afford to go and pay for a trainer. They have to start off with somebody they trust in the game who they probably live with and been taking care of them the rest of their lives. And that's their fathers. And I'm like, they can afford to do all that stuff and work with all these trainers, or he might have so many guys he can't dedicate as much time to them as the other guys he got. So how you going to tell the dads that they can only be a second and they got to trust somebody in there that may not know them that well? You're damaging the fighters. So I don't agree with that at all. And the pay-per-view...
So they're basically saying that. I'm going to jump in real quick because I'm reading the article over again. And it basically is saying that they can't be... They have to be chief second. They can't be the main trainer per se as far as fight throwing in the towel, they can't be decision-making in that process, I guess.
And I'll be like, why not? Nobody cares about them more than them. I'm like, that's their son.
Right.
So who's going to care about them more than them?
Early, too. To make a new rule, I've seen that early where a father stopped it too early.
Exactly. I mean, the thing is, it's not, and this is what the commission is mistakenly doing. They're looking at it probably from a standpoint of, oh, wow, they're stopping it too early and they're messing up the bookies. Listen, that's not their concern. Their job should be the officials. The official job is to protect the fighter. The referee, it's up to his discretion to stop the fight. It shouldn't have to come to the corner. The corner is going to do what the referee isn't doing. So if the referee does not stop the fight, a fight that should be stopped, and they're not stopping it, then that's when the corner has to come in and throw the towel. They're throwing in the towel because they feeling the referee is not doing his job. So the commission should be after the referee. Why are they concerned about the fathers being in the corner when it comes to stopping a fight? That's secondary. That's the last resort, is for the trainer to come in and have to stop the fight. It's the first discretion is the man in the ring, which is the referee. It is his discretion to stop the fight.
And the commission, too. We got a doctor, we got a commission. There are other people before it comes to where someone's that hurt.
Yeah, but I'm saying that's the first person that has the power to stop it, is the referee.
Right.
He's the first person in there. He's the one that's in that ring. So it comes to him to stop it before anybody. And if he's not doing his job, that's where the commission needs to be. Like, look, you're not doing your job. You're not stopping these fights when they need to be stopped. You don't go to the corner and say, hey, you guys are not throwing the towel in. It's like, if they're not throwing the towel in, then what was the referee doing? Because if it was definitely a fight that needed to be stopped, you don't go to the corner and say, hey, why you guys aren't throwing in the towel? You go to the referees and say, hey, why you didn't throw in this fight? Why you didn't stop the fight? Because that's their job. They're the first responders. If the first responders are not doing their job to save your fighter, they give you the option to throw the towel in, to stop it, because you want it to stop, even though the referee doesn't seem to be sharing your enthusiasm about it. You throw the towel in. That was a fail-safe that was put in there to protect the fighters, because the referees were being blamed early on that fights were going too long. So they came up with this, you could stop the fight from the corner by just coming in the ring. Because fighters were dying in the ring back then. And the referees were the judges. They were the judge and juries. There were no three judges outside of the ring. The referee made the decision on who he thought won the fight if it went to a decision. And guys were being killed in the ring. And they were like, the referee is corrupt. That's when they started letting people come in. There was wavings of towels, and we're not letting the guy go out. Now the corner could run in the ring and just completely stop the fight, but they would normally have to deal with the mafia and a lot of different aspects of the game, because this was started by gamblers and mobsters. This wasn't a sport built by honest commission businessmen. This was done by corruption. This sport was built on the foundations of corruption. So to see a decision like this, it's just weird to me that you wouldn't address the first responder in the ring, right, which is the referee, which makes the most sense. They would take the most moronic way and try to justify doing it by saying, well, we want to, we don't think they should have the towel. Why not? What are they doing wrong? Are they throwing it too early, or are they not throwing it at all? So if you're saying they're not throwing it at all, not their problem. Now, if they're throwing it in too early, and that's a problem, then what is the problem? Like, what did they see on the tape to make them say, well, they're throwing in the towel too early? And why would that be a concern of the commissions? Because that's a concern should be for the fighter. because he's the one that trusts these trainers, and that's his father. And his father threw the towel in too early on him that he might need to get a new trainer if he feels that's the case. You know, Buddy McGirt was the one that's known for stopping a fight too early, and people had like, look, I can't work with Buddy. He's stopping fights too quick. And once he started doing that, that's it, champion. I'm stopping it. What? There's just one more round to go. Yeah, but I'm going to stop it now. Ain't no need of letting you go out there. I'm barely getting touched. Yeah, I don't like what I'm seeing. I'm stopping it. And that's how Buddy used to do it. He'll stop it right in the middle and in that corner and stop a fight completely. And he was known for doing that. And now he's barely training anybody.
Did it for Paulie. I remember Paulie in Hatton.
Yeah, that was a bad one. I'm like, you think he can't go another 3 minutes? You think Paulie couldn't go 3 more minutes?
Everything. I mean, come on, Paulie can make it. He can just move around. Jab, move.
Yeah, I'm like, it's not like he's getting killed. It's like, what are you doing? It was totally unnecessary, shocking, and just completely puzzling as to why he even decided to stop the fight. So
maybe Sulman just doesn't like dads in the sport right now, and he's trying to send a message to him or something. I don't really know, man. It seems really backwards. I don't really understand it. I get it to an extent. It's more to just start cracking down on people that waited too long and start to review them and have an interview or like a meeting with them and say, hey, we felt like, you know, you had an emotional thing there for your son, and we need you to be a little bit more professional and throw in the towel or whatever earlier or whatever. But we'll see. Maybe it'll be appealed or, you know, changed or whatever as well. What about Wilder, man? He's coming back on Fox. I really hope they build the undercard because Wawrinka is just a guy who, Karceno, he looks the part at 6'5" and 33-1, but his resume is really hollow. And the only time he stepped up, like I've been saying, is when he got, you know, ran out of town real quick against Povetkin. Now, maybe that was cheating Povetkin, but no matter what, it is what it is. I mean, this guy really hasn't done much, so he's coming back. Who do you see him fighting next? Would it be a fight against White and Stavern? I don't know if they could turn around and make that quick of a fight because, you know, White just came off of a pretty brutal fight with Chisora, so he's probably not trying to get in the ring by February or March to be ready for a fight like that, but that's the eliminator for his mandatory. But to have a stay busy comeback fight, that's one thing, but there's guys in the top 20 that are better than this guy. I just wish that they would have picked a little bit better guy if you're going to put it on Fox, to me. But hopefully they build the undercard like they did this last summer where they had a couple of good fights on the undercard. That's what I'm assuming they're doing. But who's Wilder going to fight next? I mean, will they go right to I don't know. Maybe would they go right to a pay-per-view with Wilder and let's say Joshua gets by Vlad, or would they wait and try to make it here since you can charge, you know, $65-$70 for pay-per-view? And Showtime's made it clear that they want him in the fight here once before he got that fight. I mean, I don't know. It just seems like a bum of the month club that leads to what? You know what I mean? There's kind of mystery. I wouldn't mind the opponent if I knew what was on the end of it, but that's who he's fighting on Fox in a primetime.
Well, he's coming off of a surgery. For him, I don't really blame, but he's coming off of a surgery. To his power hand, which is his right hand, I mean, that's where he gets all his knockouts from. He throws punches with so much force, and he doesn't normally throw his punches correctly when he punches. I mean, the thing about him is he's a devastating power puncher. You don't want to throw him in right away on his first fight back, coming off of an injury, to somebody that's that dangerous. This is a guy he could probably knock out, and it'll look impressive, but he gets some rounds in. I say about 2 fights in, 1 fight after this, you could put him back in the ring with the winner of the Klitschko-Joshua fight, which he supposedly, that's what they're going to go in, towards, and that's what they're working towards for next year. So either at the end of next year or so, but after this fight, he should have 1 more fight. That's supposed to be a good fight after this. Either it's a rematch against...
Solid opponent.
Yeah, a rematch against Deverne or somebody in there, but it's a quality opponent. Then they're going to go right into the Anthony Joshua fight. Now, from what I heard is that they want Anthony Joshua then would prefer Wilder come over there, and then Wilder's like, no, he would have to come here in the States to do this fight. But Al Heyman has stake in Anthony Joshua as part of their deal, with Eddie Hearn and Showtime, and and that's why they've been feeding him nothing but all these Heyman fighters and building him up, because they want to put this mega fight together. And now that they got the Klitschko fight, they think Joshua's going to win that fight, and then they can retire Klitschko, and then they can move right on with the Wilder fight, and then it would be an epic. They think it's going to do great numbers. Like, even here in the United States, it'll be even, more greater. And the fact is that more people, because it's on Showtime, they're getting to see Anthony Joshua. And there's a lot of casual people who are like, yeah, like, I would like to see Wilder fight that guy that was Joshua. Yeah, dude, he's strong too. Yeah, they put those 2 in the ring, man. That would be a great fight. These are casual people. So I'm like, wow, this is really working, because casual people now know a little bit about Anthony Joshua. So by being on Showtime, even though it's in the UK, they still get to see the fights when they watch other boxing fights, and they're kind of identifying him now, when before they didn't know who he was or anything. I mean, I remember one guy thought Anthony Joshua was a white guy. He never saw him, just saw his name. It's like, oh, I was like, no, that's David Price you're looking at. I was like, that's not Anthony Joshua. I was like, but he's like, I thought he was Anthony Joshua. I was like, no, that's David Price. But back then, they didn't know. They just going off of the name, and now they know who he is. They can identify him. They see him and be like, oh, that's Anthony Joshua. So it's working. What they're doing is working. But now it's like, okay, now it's getting to the point where they got to start picking it up, which I don't mind if you have a plan. Like, if there's an end point, like it's leading to something. Like Canelo and Triple G, we gave them the allowances. Right, we gave them the allowances to have these fights because we knew it was leading to something. Now it looks like a joke because they've had the time to make the fight. It's like, we gave you that time to make the fight and you didn't. That fight was supposed to be happening right now at the latest. The fight was supposed to be in September. We didn't get it. We gave you the allowances to fight Amir Khan because we said, okay, Triple G has to be next. Then you come with Liam Smith, and now it's a joke.
Well, Golovkin fought what's-his-nose in the spring, too, Wade, which is just a non-starter. Waste of space.
Yeah, you fight Wade, then you fight Kell Brook, who's a welterweight. So now it's like, look, you guys are both sides are being ridiculous, thinking that the longer we wait, the bigger it's going to be based off the Mayweather-Pacquiao situation. And they're like, look what happened there. The longer the people didn't get it, the more frustrated they got, and then we had to just make the fight happen. 2 things. Mayweather and Pacquiao were very known here in the United States. Gennady Golovkin is not that known in the United States. He's known through most of the casual people. I mean, it's a lot better now than it would have been like a year or 2 ago. But trust me, these guys cannot keep winning at this pace. I mean, Gennady Golovkin, he has a result style that's interesting, and so does Canelo. This fight is going to do some big numbers, I think. And once I think that, I think it's going to surprise a lot of people by doing the numbers it do. A lot of people think it's going to fail. I think it's actually going to do close to 1 million on pay-per-view because the people are so frustrated with it that the casual fans are going to be influenced by the fans of boxing who want to see it happen so bad. They're going to make them go, whoa, this is a big fight. I got to run and go see it. Yeah, so the energy of that will make it do...
Yeah, I think it could hit 1 million, but I wouldn't put it much over
I wouldn't put it that much either. I would put it at probably like 800,000 plus. Like, it'll be close to 1 million pay-per-view buys. But what people don't realize is that, like we were talking about, like you said, it happened almost 10 years ago, back in 08. And I told people this before, in 08, when we had all those pay-per-views, back, and they were all failing. And people were like, my goodness. People didn't see the scale and the scope of how they were failing. The reason why they failed is because they believed, the companies believed that they were the promoters. HBO thought like we could do what the promoters are doing and we could just make pay-per-views ourselves.
Right.
And once you do that and you're basically cutting the promoters' legs off and putting everything on pay-per-view because you want to try to make money, you don't realize you have to, it's work that happens behind it. And then they lost so much money. That was the difference. Where this year, where you see a lot of pay-per-views, they're really not losing that much money. That's the problem. I mean, that's the difference. When you're paying Miguel Cotto and Shane Mosley and all these guys all that kind of money, like millions of, multi-millions of dollars, and then the pay-per-views are not coming out to match the money, you're taking a loss. But when the payoff this time is only, say, about 5 million, 6 million total for the whole thing, and then anything else you do over 200, 300,000, if you do that, you're winning. You're basically making some money off of it. So you're not losing. But the problem is the quality of what you're putting out. You know, when you're seeing fights take place like Canelo, Khan, and Kell Brook and Triple G, and these things, you know, it kind of throws people off. The Liam Smith fight and Canelo.
Kirkland.
Exactly, Canelo, Kirkland.
Same time we got Deontay Wilder on Fox fighting a pushover.
Exactly. These are the type of results that once you see them, you're going to say to yourself, wow, why am I even involved in getting myself excited for a pay-per-view for? Because pay-per-view used to be an event. That's why you're paying to see it. It's a big event, so you want to see it play out.
It's harder to get people over if they don't know the fighters.
Exactly. And then
8, 10 people over.
Right, and then you got Manny Pacquiao and Jesse Vargas. That's not a pay-per-view fight. I think it's a good fight, something that should have been on HBO, but not pay-per-view. And when you put this on the platform to the people and try to say this is what a pay-per-view fight is, they're going to go, I don't want to see that on pay-per-view. You know, that's nothing to get excited about because no one's even built up Jesse Vargas at all. You haven't even heard about him until he was put on pay-per-view. So it's like, how do you get excited about it? And you expect people to run out and pay their money for it? No. It's done wrong. It's not done properly. Pay-per-view should be built up where there's interest on both sides. To the point where the public is demanding to see the fight.
Think about all that exposure, Karceno. It started with, and not to cut you off, but just to piggyback off what you're saying, it started with, like I mentioned earlier, David Lemieux and Golovkin. When they put that on pay-per-view, we all were like, really? And then Crawford Postal. Even Kovalev Ward. I mean, if these type of fights, they're best fights, some of them can't get on normal. The only reason why Walters and Lomachenko happened is because Canelo got hurt. Otherwise, that fight wouldn't have happened this year. So it's crazy to have that on the pay-per-view. That's an issue.
Yeah.
That's an issue. And then we got Cotto Kirkland coming up on pay-per-view.
Yeah, it's terrible. And the thing is that the best fighters are not being promoted, and they're sitting on the sidelines, and they're like, they want to rather put these little showcase fights on for their fighters, but they want you to pay for them to see the showcase fights. They're not even saying we're going to do it on HBO now. They're saying we're going to do it on pay-per-view. So you're going to have people like turning their nose to pay-per-views. They're like, well, I'm not going to pay for that. I don't even know who that guy is. I'm not even worried about it. And then what's happening is the bars are not buying them. The bars used to pay for these events. And what they're doing is saying, look, I'll just...
That's very true.
Yeah, and they're not paying for them. And I know, because I normally would go by one of the bars, they'll say, look, forget that. For what they're charging, I'll just buy a Conor McGregor fight and I have my whole bar packed. He's like, people show up for him and Ronda Rousey and all that, so my bar is packed. Because they let them watch the fight for free. They don't charge them extra at this other bar. Like, one bar charge you $20 if you want to go in there and watch a pay-per-view. Well, this other bar is like, look, you can come here for free. As long as you're buying liquor and beer, come to my bar. I'll get the fight. But he's not going to pay. The only fight he would do is a Mayweather fight. He's like, Floyd Mayweather fights, I'll buy. He's like, Manny Pacquiao, now I don't buy his fights. And that spoke volume. Because he said, I lost my shirt on a fight with him and Bradley. The rematch. He's like, I lost my shirt on that one. And then he's like, he's fighting another guy. And I'm like, look, I'm not going to take a chance. And he says, it's a good thing I didn't because nobody even knew he was fighting that night. And he's like, they were like, oh, Pacquiao's fighting that night? And he's like, I'm not even going to waste my money again on Manny Pacquiao. So he's like, that ride's over. So Conor McGregor fills up my bar. So that's what I'm going to stick with. And I remember when he first fought Marquez, every bar had that fight for the last fight, fifth fight with Marquez, or the fourth fight with Marquez. Everybody had that. Every bar, every location had Marquez Pacquiao. It was at Champs. It was everywhere. I'm like, my goodness, you can't escape that fight. Everybody picked it up because they knew that this was a fight that was going to sell. And the thing is that Manny Pacquiao and all these guys, they need a dance partner because they don't really have what it takes. They don't have the ore. Like, Manny Pacquiao's whole connection was Floyd Mayweather. Once that was the goal they were leading to. So anybody he fought was just in the way, and people were so interested because they wanted to see it. Once he lost to Floyd, his personality is not something that would keep you gravitated to Manny Pacquiao. Only if they have the...
I think his voice, though. His singing voice does.
Oh, yeah. If they'd have kept promoting that, but see, everybody kind of walked away after the fight was done. They just said, man, he's done. And he pretty much is done because you don't hear nothing about him unless he's getting ready to fight and, like, around the sport of boxing. You know, he's back in the Philippines. So when he fights... If they don't have Floyd Mayweather or something to tie his name to look forward to him building up to, there's no interest in Manny Pacquiao. It's like, what is he even fighting for? That's why the people are not really watching it. They don't know where he's going. What's the direction? Is he going back to Mayweather? Mayweather's retired.
Like Odo Kirkland.
Exactly.
I mean, think about it, dude. Like I said, they got at least 4 pay-per-views by June. It may be 5. If you think about it, Kodo Kirkland, Golovkin Jacobs, Canelo Chavez or Canelo against somebody. If it's BJ, it's probably going to be pay-per-view. Then you got Kovalev War 2, which has got to be pay-per-view.
Yep.
And then you got Pacquiao. Then you have Pacquiao lingering for a fight too, and that's probably got to be pay-per-view. So that's 4, possibly 5 fights in the first 6 months of the year. I mean... Yeah,
and then this guy told me, he said...
Maybe it's the promoter's fault for having the minimums that some of these guys have, but that's not, you know, I just can't, that's a lot of pay-per-views, dude.
Yeah, and this guy told me because he said, look, I got a family. He's like, you know, my cable bills, he's like, I got 5 TVs in my house. They got cable, and he said my cable bill is about $200 a month. If I get a pay-per-view, that's $260 or $270 on my cable bill. And then 2 weeks later, I got to buy another fight on pay-per-view. You know, I'm just not going to do it. So now my cable bill's up to about $140. So he's like, now I'm paying $340 when I used to pay $200 just to see 2 fights. He's like, that's ridiculous. He's like, the Manny Pacquiao fight, it really ruined Andre Ward's fight on pay-per-view. And I tried to tell people this and they didn't listen. That fight ruined a lot of the pay-per-view money for Andre Ward and Kovalev, even though that didn't perform well. Because a lot of people like, I'm holding my money back because I want to watch Andre Ward and Kovalev. Not too many people are going to buy that. 2 weeks before the next fight is not enough time. That's why pay-per-views are not done like that in boxing. Because they know how expensive it is. The average person, household, is not going to purchase 2 pay-per-views. They can't afford it. Especially if they got a house with kids and bills. That's an extra $140. They're like, well, you can have your friends come over and do all this. I'm like, when your friends come over and they put all the money together and all, by the time that bill comes, you're going to forget all about that money they gave. And it's not going to lead up to all that. And not every household that's going to happen. Where they'll probably put 20 on it, or here's this, or here's that. But still, you're looking at a bill that's going to be up by $140.
Either.
2
weeks. You can't
weeks.
split it either, where we were saying, if you have a group of guys, a group of people come over, but if they don't know some of these guys, I mean, who really was pumped up as a common or casual boxing fan that they knew Postol and Crawford,
Exactly.
And the numbers clearly show.
And this is HBO's fault. HBO didn't have the budget money for it. They wanted to do the date, so Top Rank was either going to do it on their own. They were like, look, let's just put it on pay-per-view, and Aaron really didn't have a choice to go with it because he's like, that's the only way HBO would do the fight, even though Aaron felt like this fight is being rushed, and it's not ready yet for pay-per-view. Like, Crawford's not ready yet to be put on pay-per-view. He's just not. So, they learned the lesson really quick, that you got to continuously build him before you can put him on a pay-per-view. He's got to beat somebody of stature that somebody actually knows and see. Even though Victor Postol was, and clearly was the guy to beat after beating Matisse, he deserved that shot, and that deserved to be a fight that was on HBO. Right. So where people who didn't know who Victor Postol was all got a chance to witness this fight. You don't make them pay for something they don't know. That's just something you don't do. Pay-per-view was never designed for that. It was designed for you to know who they were going into the pay-per-view. That's like, okay, yeah, you know who this guy is, you know who that guy is, and now we got to put them on the big stage to see who's the best. Not like you're gonna find out who this guy is in the pay-per-view. It's like it doesn't make any sense at all. And that's why everything is backwards and they're going off the cliff, and Oscar De La Hoya is back in the bars drinking because he doesn't know what he's doing. He's thinking about selling events. Yeah, and like Dr. Uppercut was saying, like Oscar was losing those fights the majority of his career. His career was tainted because he was the guy that couldn't...
Even like Trinidad, Shane Mosley, I mean, those were ones that you could have gave him one of those or both of those, that second Shane Mosley fight or whatever, but most of them, he did lose his big ones.
Oh, yeah, he was known as the guy that couldn't win the big one. That was his stigma on him. They was like, yeah, we get him to the big fight and he just doesn't impress or he doesn't win it. And that was what Top Rank job was. It's like, look, we build you up to put you in the fight that's going to get the money for us, and you don't win it or you don't do something good. Like the Ike Cortez fight, that was his big platform fight to win. The Pernell Whitaker fight, that was his big platform fight to win. And it's like, you didn't really win those fights. You left doubt. Pernell Whitaker was like at his worst point, and you looked like an amateur against him. He embarrassed you in that fight. And then Ike Cortez dominated him. And even though he knocked him down in the 12th round, he needed the knockout to win that fight. He was so far down on the cards. And they gave him the fight. So it's left a lot of doubt in people's minds because people said you didn't win this fight. And so the Trinidad fight was supposed to set everything right. And the way that went down. So Oscar had this stigma on his career at that time that he can't win the big one. They were like, you beat Chavez. Yeah, when Chavez was at the end of his rope and at the end of his career. So he didn't even get the credit. He got all the backlash for that fight with Chavez. Nothing ever panned out for him. The only fight he won that was the big fight was him and Vargas. That was his moment. His big fight that he finally got the monkey off his back. And it was only a big fight by name and the fact that Vargas didn't like Oscar De La Hoya. Because at that point, Trinidad basically took the aura away from Vargas when he beat him down the way he did. And then in his comeback fight, Vargas was so out of shape and got dropped in that fight even though he won it. And then this guy came out of retirement to do this to him before he got overwhelmed by Fernando Vargas. So that's when Oscar said, oh man, Vargas is done. Let me take this fight. But before the Trinidad fight.
The show may cut you off here. We are coming up right at the buffer.
Okay, yeah. I just wanted to touch on that and say thanks again for having this quick show. I'm glad I can get on this show on Thursday night this time. Last week I had the Star Wars thing and couldn't budge.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
And for the fans that's out there listening, that's Blog Talk Radio. We do a show every Wednesday night from 8 p.m. Central Time to about 11 o'clock at night, talking boxing. So people just say, why you don't do that much boxing no more? We do boxing for like 3 hours straight. I'm going to put the link in the description box so you can hear the shows. And that way you get to get caught up with the shows and listen to them. If you really like boxing like that, you get to hear informative information about things that's going on in the sport. Chris Carlson is the host. He does a great job over there. And over the years, there's been a lot of great people that worked with this Blog Talks station. So I'm very proud of it that we've stuck with this show since its inception. I remember when they were first developing this show, and we're talking like 6-7 years ago, might have been even longer. That's how long the show has been going on, and it's thriving, and it's always epic. Every show, you never know who's going to be on the show. Bob Arum's been on the show. We've had countless fighters on this show. So I love this show. Like I try to make so much time to make it, to be on this show, because it's great. Fans get to call up and you get to talk to them and you get to be on the show too. So if you got something about boxing you want to say, every Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Central, 9 p.m. Eastern, and 6 p.m. Pacific, you can get on the show. Or you can just call and listen, or if you got a PC, you can listen to it from your PC. I'm out.